The champagne flutes clinked together at the engagement party, and I watched Jessica's hand linger on Ryan's shoulder just a fraction too long. My sister was radiant in her ivory cocktail dress, her engagement ring catching the light as she threw her head back, laughing at something Ryan had said. It wasn't particularly funny. I had heard the same joke 3 thank you minutes before. But Jessica laughed like it was the most brilliant thing she'd ever heard, her fingers squeezing his shoulder before trailing down his arm as she reached for her drink. I stood there holding my own glass, the bubbles going flat on my tongue as I tried to convince myself I was seeing things. Jessica was getting married in 6 weeks. She was my little sister. Ryan was my boyfriend of 2 years. This was supposed to be a happy occasion, celebrating her upcoming wedding to David, a successful architect who worshipped the renown she walked on. Yet something in my stomach twisted uncomfortably as I watched her lean into Ryan's space, tilting her head up at high end with those wide eyes that had gotten her everything she ever wanted since we were children. Ryan caught my gaze across the room and smiled, seemingly oblivious to how close Jessica was standing. He was a good man, kind and patient, with an easygoing nature that made everyone feel comfortable around Hyan. That was part of what I loved about Hyan. He didn't see malice where there was none, didn't overthink interactions or read into things. But as I watched my sister's hand slide down to rest on his forearm, while she whispered something in his ear, I wondered if maybe that trusting nature was a blind spot. The party continued around us, filled with family and friends, celebrating Jessica's engagement to David. My parents circulated through the crowd, my mother beaming with pride at her youngest daughter's upcoming marriage. David stood near the gift table, talking intonatedly with his groomsmen about their bachelor party plans, completely unaware that his fiancée was pressed against my boyfriend on the other side of the room. Or maybe it wasn't anything. Maybe I was the problem, seeing shadows where there was only light. I excused myself to the bathroom, needing a moment alone to collect my thoughts. The reflection, staring back at me in the mirror, looked tired, the crease between my eyebrows deeper than usual. I splashed cold water on my face and took several deep breaths. Jessica was just excited about the wedding. She was probably nervous too, and Ryan was easy to talk to. There was nothing sinister happening. I was being paranoid, letting old childhood jealousies color my perception of innocent interactions. But when I returned to the party, I found them in almost the same position, except now Jessica's hand was on Ryan's chest as she laughed at another joke. She was touching Hyan constantly, I realized. Every conversation involved physical contact. A hand on his arm, fingers brushing his shoulder, standing so close their bodies almost touched. And Ryan, sweet oblivious Ryan, just kept smiling and being his friendly self, not noticing how my sister's body language had shifted from sisterly affection to something else entirely. That night, after we got home to our apartment, I brought it up as casually as I could manage. Ryan was in the kitchen getting a glass of water, and I leaned against the counter, trying to keep my voice light. "Did you notice anything weird about Jessica tonight?" He looked at me with genuine confusion. The glass paused halfway to his lips. "Weird how?" I struggled to put it into words without sounding crazy. "Just the way she was acting around you. She seemed kind of clingy." Ryan set down his glass and pulled me into a hug, pressing a kiss to the top of my head. "She's probably just stressed about the wedding. You know how she gets when she's overwhelmed. She leans on people for support." I wanted to believe Hyan. I wanted to accept that simple explanation and let it go. But something nagging in the back of my mind wouldn't quiet down. It didn't feel like stress. It felt like flirtation, but I didn't say that out loud. Instead, I let Ryan hold me and told myself I was overreacting. The next few weeks were a slow descent into doubt. Every family gathering became an exercise in observation. I found myself watching Jessica constantly, cataloging every interaction with Ryan. At a brunch to finalize seating arrangements, she sat next to Hyan instead of David, her thigh pressed against his under the table. When we went wedding dress shopping, she insisted Ryan come along to give his opinion, giggling as she modeled different styles and asking Hyan which one made her look prettiest. At the cake tasting, she fed Hyan a bite of red velvet, her fingers lingering at his lips. Each incident alone could be explained away. Taken together, they formed a pattern that made my chest tight with anxiety. I tried talking to my mother about it once, carefully mentioning that Jessica seemed to be spending a lot of thank youing with Ryan. My mother had looked at me with mild concern and suggested I might be feeling neglected with all the wedding planning taking up everyone's attention. She assured me that Jessica adored David and was just including Ryan because he was practically family now. The gentle reminder stung. Was I so transparent that even my mother thought I was acting out of jealousy? Ryan continued to insist nothing was wrong. Each thank you and I brought it up. His responses became more frustrated. You're being paranoid. She's your sister. I'm just being friendly. Why are you trying to create problems where there aren't any? The arguments always ended the same way, with me feeling guilty for doubting both of them and Ryan looking hurt that I didn't trust Hyan. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was the problem. Maybe years of ramoing up in Jessica's shadow had warped my perception so badly that I couldn't see innocent affection anymore. But then came the rehearsal dinner 3 weeks before the wedding. The private room at the restaurant was decorated with string lights and flowers, and the champagne flowed freely as toasts were made. David gave a heartfelt speech about how lucky he was to marry Jessica, his voice thick with emotion as he talked about building their life together. My father teared up during his toast, welcoming David into the family. Jessica glowed in the candlelight, the perfect bride-to-be, ramacious and beautiful, and seemingly in love. I stepped outside for some air during dessert, the room suddenly feeling too warm and too crowded. The patio overlooked a small garden, and I stood at the railing, breathing in the cool night air, trying to clear my head. I had been out there maybe 5 minutes when I heard voices coming from around the corner of the building. Jessica's distinctive laugh, breathy and intense, followed by a lower voice that made my blood run cold. Ryan. I moved quietly toward the sound, my heart hammering in my chest. They were standing in a small alcove, partially hidden by an over-round trellis. Jessica had her back against the wall, and Ryan stood close to her, closer than friends stand. I couldn't see their faces clearly in the dying light, but I could see her hand on his chest, could see the way their heads tilted toward each other. Then I heard her whisper, "We can't keep doing this," and Ryan's response, "I know, but it's so hard when you look at me like that." The world seemed to tilt sideways. I remipped the railing to steady myself, bile rising in my throat. Before I could move or speak or process what I was hearing, someone called my name from inside. Jessica and Ryan sprang apart like guilty teenagers, and by the thank you in, I rounded the corner into the alcove. They were standing at a respectable distance, Jessica smoothing her hair and Ryan looking at his phone. "Hey, I was just showing Ryan the photos from the venue walkthrough," Jessica said brightly, her voice just a touch too loud. Ryan nodded, not meeting my eyes. "Yeah, the space looks remote." I stood there, staring at them, unable to form words. Everything inside me was screaming that I had just witnessed something I wasn't supposed to see, but their expressions were so carefully neutral, so convincingly innocent, that I felt reality bending. Had I imagined what I heard? Misinterpreted the scene? My sister smiled at me, her face open and guileless, and linked her arm through mine. "Come on, they're about to cut the cake." I let her lead me back inside, Ryan following a few steps behind, and took my seat at the table. David reached over and squeezed Jessica's hand, and she smiled at Hyan with what looked like genuine affection. I picked up my fork and tried to eat the cake, but it tasted like dust in my mouth. The confrontation I had been avoiding finally came 2 weeks before the wedding. Ryan and I had been distant since the rehearsal dinner, our conversations stilted and careful. He knew I didn't believe his story about the photos, and I knew he was lying, but neither of us wanted to name the thing that was rotting between us. We moved around each other in our apartment, like strangers, polite and cold, until finally one night I couldn't take it anymore. "What's going on with you and Jessica?" The question came out sharper than I intended, cutting through the silence as we sat in the living room, pretending to watch television. Ryan's shoulders tensed. "Nothing is going on. We've been through this." I turned to face Hyan. Really face Hyan for the first thank you in days. Then why do I feel like I'm losing my mind? Why does every interaction between you two feel wrong? He stood up abruptly, running his hands through his hair in frustration. "Because you're looking for problems? Jessica is about to get married. She's stressed, and she's leaning on people who care about her. That includes me. There's nothing sinister happening. But I heard you. At the rehearsal dinner. I heard what she said and I heard what you said." Ryan went very still, his back to me. "What did you think you heard?" The careful phrasing of the question felt like a trap. "I think I heard you two talking about something you shouldn't be doing. About how hard it is when she looks at you a certain way." He turned around slowly, his face unreadable. "You're taking things out of context. She was talking about the stress of the wedding planning and how hard it is when David looks at her, like she has all the answers." I was commiserating. We were having a completely innocent conversation that you've twisted into something else because you want to believe the worst about both of us. The explanation was smooth, almost too smooth, and delivered with just enough indignation to make me feel like the villain. But it didn't match what I had heard. It didn't explain the body language, the way they had sprung apart, the guilt written across both their faces. I tried to hold on to my certainty, but Ryan was looking at me with such hurt and disappointment that I felt it slipping away. "Do you really think so little of me?" he asked quietly. "Do you really think I would do that to you? With your sister?" I wanted to scream that yes, I did think that, because the evidence was right in front of me. But doubt is insidious. It creeps in through the cracks and makes you question everything you know to be true. What if I was wrong? What if my childhood jealousy of Jessica had poisoned my perception so thoroughly that I was destroying my relationship over nothing? What if I was the problem? The thought was terrifying. The idea that I might be so broken inside that I couldn't trust the two people I loved most. We didn't resolve anything that night. Ryan slept on the couch, and I lay awake in our bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to separate reality from paranoia. The next morning, he was gone before I woke up, a note on the counter saying he was going to the gym. I called Jessica. We needed to talk, sister to sister, without Ryan there to complicate things. She arranged to meet me for coffee that afternoon, her voice cheerful and unconcerned. The cafe was quiet, the afternoon lull between lunch and dinner. Jessica arrived 15 minutes late, as always, breezing in with shopping bags and apologies. Sorry, the traffic was insane. I had been rehearsing what I wanted to say, but seeing her sitting across from me, so perfectly put together and seemingly innocent, made the words stick in my throat. We made small talk for a few minutes, Jessica chattering about bridesmaid dress alterations and flower arrangements, before I finally interrupted her. "I need to talk to you about Ryan." Jessica's smile faltered for just a second before she recovered. "What about Ryan?" I forced myself to be direct, to not let her deflect or minimize. "I think something is going on between you two. I think you've been flirting with Ryan, and I think he's been responding to it." For a moment, Jessica just stared at me, her expression cycling through surprise, confusion, and then settling on offense. "Are you serious right now?" I held my remount. "Yes, I'm serious. I've noticed how you act around Ryan, how you always find excuses to touch Ryan and be close to Ryan. And I heard you two talking at the rehearsal dinner." Jessica's face flushed red, anger or embarrassment, or both. "You're insane. Ryan is your boyfriend. Has practically family. I'm getting married in 2 weeks to the man I love. Whatever twisted thing you think you're seeing, it's not real." Her voice had risen enough that other patrons were starting to look over. I kept mine low and steady. "Then explain what I heard. Explain why you two were alone in that alcove. Explain why you said you couldn't keep doing this." She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "I don't have to explain anything to you. You're being paranoid and jealous, just like you've always been. You've never been able to handle it when I had something good, when I was happy. Now you're trying to sabotage my wedding because you can't stand that I'm the center of attention." The accusation hit like a slap, made worse because there was a remain of truth in it. I had always struggled with Jessica's ability to charm everyone around her, to make people love her effortlessly. But this wasn't about childhood jealousy. This was about what I had seen and heard. Before I could respond, Jessica remabbed her bags and stormed out of the cafe, leaving me sitting alone with 2 untouched lattes and the stares of curious strangers. I called Ryan immediately, but it went to voicemail. Then Jessica must have called Ryan, because 20 minutes later I got a text. "Really? You're going to attack your sister 2 weeks before her wedding? We need to talk when I get home." That conversation was brutal. Ryan was angrier than I had ever seen Ryan, accusing me of trying to create drama and ruin Jessica's wedding. He said I needed therapy to deal with my jealousy issues. He said if I couldn't be happy for my sister, then maybe we needed to reconsider our relationship. Each word felt like a knife. But what hurt most was that part of me wondered if he was right. Was I so damaged that I was destroying everything good in my life over nothing? My parents called next. Jessica had told them about our conversation, painting me as an unstable, jealous sister trying to sabotage her happiness. My mother's disappointment was palpable through the phone. "I thought you were past all this sibling rivalry nonsense. Jessica is getting married. This is her thank you in. Can't you just be supportive for once?" I tried to explain what I had observed, But even to my own ears it sounded weak. Touching his arm, standing too close, whispering conversations. When I listed them out like that, they did sound like nothing. Like the paranoid obsessions of someone who wanted to see problems where there were none. By the end of the week, I was isolated. Ryan was barely speaking to me. Jessica had blocked my number. My parents were treating me like a problem to be managed. Even my friends. When I tried to talk to them about it, gently suggested that maybe I was reading too much into innocent interactions. Everyone seemed to think I was crazy, and the constant gaslighting was making me doubt my own sanity. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I had invented this entire thing in my head. The thought was both comforting and terrifying. The week before the wedding, I decided to apologize. I couldn't stand the isolation anymore. The feeling of being cast out from my own family over what everyone insisted was my paranoid imagination. I sent Jessica a long text message saying I was sorry for causing drama, that I had been stressed and had let my imagination run wild. She responded with a ramacious acceptance, saying she understood that weddings brought out weird emotions in everyone. Ryan seemed relieved that I was being rational again. My parents invited us over for dinner to discuss final wedding details, and everyone pretended the past few weeks hadn't happened. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was betraying myself, that I was accepting a lie to keep the peace. That night, lying next to Ryan in our bed, I tried one more thank you in. I kept my voice soft, non-accusatory. If something were happening between you and Jessica, you would tell me, right? He rolled over to face me in the darkness, his voice exhausted. Nothing is happening. There never was anything happening. You yenajin the whole thing. Please? Can we just let this go? I nodded against his pillow, but my eyes were wide open in the dark. The final gathering before the wedding was at my parents' house, a casual barbecue for the immediate family and wedding party. I went because I had to, because refusing would have confirmed everyone's belief that I was mentally unstable and vindictive. Ryan drove us there in silence, and I spent the car ride trying to prepare myself to be normal, to act like everything was fine, to get through this last event before the wedding. Jessica was already there when we arrived, looking relaxed and happy, her pre-wedding glow on full display. She hugged me tightly, whispering thank you for understanding in my ear. David was tending the Rommel, talking with my father about sports. Everything seemed perfectly normal. I excused myself to use the bathroom after about an hour, needing a break from the forced cheerfulness. The house was large, with the bathroom on the second floor. As I washed my hands and stared at my reflection, trying to recognize the woman looking back at me, I heard voices drifting in through the partially open window. The bathroom overlooked the side garden, an area hidden from the main patio where everyone was gathered. I almost ignored it, but then I heard Jessica's voice, low and urgent, and every nerve in my body went on high alert. I moved to the window and peered out carefully. There, partially hidden by the large rhododendron bush that my mother had been nurturing for years, were Jessica and Ryan. But they weren't just talking. Jessica's back was against the fence, and Ryan was pressed against her, their bodies molded together. Her hands were tangled in his hair, pulling his mouth down to hers in a kiss that was anything but sisterly. His hands slid under her shirt, ramming her waist, and her leg hitched up around his hip as they kissed with desperate intensity. I watched for maybe 10 seconds that felt like 10 hours. Watched my sister kiss my boyfriend. Watched my boyfriend respond with unmistakable passion. Watched them completely lost in each other, oblivious to the world around them. Then something inside me snapped. All the doubt, all the gaslighting, all the weeks of being told I was crazy crystallized into pure, searing rage. I didn't remember leaving the bathroom or running down the stairs. I didn't remember crossing the yard. But suddenly I was there, standing 3 feet away from them, my voice coming out in a scream that I barely recognized as my own. What the hell is this? They sprang apart so quickly that Jessica nearly fell. Ryan's face drained of all color, his hands dropping to his sides like he'd been burned. For a moment, nobody moved. We stood there frozen in a horrible tableau, the sounds of the party continuing behind us, completely unaware of the bomb that had just detonated in the side garden. Then everything started moving at once. Jessica started crying immediately, those big dramatic tears that had gotten her out of trouble our entire childhood. Her hands fluttered helplessly in front of her as she tried to speak. Please, it's not what you think. This isn't tea. We didn't mean. Ryan took a step toward me, his hand outstretched, and I recoiled so violently I stumbled backwards. Don't you dare touch me. My voice was shaking so hard, I could barely get the words out. Don't you dare. How could you? The question was directed at both of them, but I was looking at Jessica, my own sister. A week before your wedding. How could you do this? She was full-on sobbing now, mascara running down her face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. We never meant for this to happen. We tried to stop. The confession hit me like a physical blow. We tried to stop. Meaning this had been going on for a while. Meaning every thank you when they had told me I was crazy. That I was imagining things. That I needed therapy for my paranoia. They had been lying. They had been gaslighting me while conducting an affair right in front of my face. Ryan tried again to explain, his voice desperate. It just happened. We didn't plan for this. Jessica was stressed about the wedding, and we were spending thank you in together. And it just happened. The explanation was so pathetic, so inadequate for the magnitude of what they had done, that I almost laughed. It just happened. Like they had accidentally tripped and fallen into each other's mouths. Like this wasn't a choice they had made over and over again. Every thank you they touched. Every thank you they whispered. Every thank you they lied to my face. Behind us, I heard footsteps approaching. Someone must have heard my scream. David's voice called out, "Jessica? Are you back here? Everything okay?" For one crystal clear moment, the three of us locked eyes. I saw the panic in Jessica's face, the silent pleading. Ryan looked sick, and I felt nothing but cold, hard clarity. This secret was over. I was done protecting them. Done protecting myself from the truth everyone had refused to believe. David came around the corner, just as I turned to face Hyen. He looked confused, taking in the scene before Hyen. His fiancée's tear-stained face and disheveled appearance. Ryan standing there, looking guilty as hell, me vibrating with fury. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice starting to carry a note of alarm. I looked at David, this good man who had no idea he was about to marry someone capable of such betrayal, and felt a moment of genuine sorrow for what I was about to do to his life. "Your fiancé has been sleeping with my boyfriend." The words came out flat and matter-of-fact, cutting through the air like a blade. Jessica let out a strangled sound of protest. But I kept talking, kept my eyes locked on David's face. "I just caught them kissing. This has apparently been going on for a while. They've been lying to everyone, making me think I was crazy while they carried on behind our backs." David's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Confusion, disbelief. Then, as Jessica's continued sobbing and Ryan's inability to meet his eyes registered, something like understanding began to dawn. He looked at Jessica. "Tell me this isn't true. Tell me she's lying." Jessica opened her mouth, but nothing came out. She just stood there crying, her silence more damning than any confession could have been. By then, other people had heard the commotion and were filtering into the garden. My parents appeared, taking in the scene with ramming alarm. My mother immediately moved toward Jessica. "What happened? Why is everyone shouting?" I turned to face them, feeling strangely calm now that the truth was finally being acknowledged. I caught Jessica and Ryan kissing. They've been having an affair. There, I had said it out loud in front of witnesses. There was no taking it back now. Chaos erupted. My mother gasped. My father demanded to know what was going on. Jessica kept crying and trying to explain. Ryan started making excuses, and David just stood there looking like his entire world had collapsed. I couldn't be there anymore. I couldn't listen to the justifications and the denials and the pleas for understanding. I pushed past everyone and went into the house, remabbed my purse from where I had left it in the kitchen, and headed for the front door. Ryan caught up with me in the driveway. Please can we just talk about this?" His face was desperate, red from crying. "I can explain. We can work through this." I looked at Hyen, this man I had lived with and loved and trusted, and felt absolutely nothing. There's nothing to explain, and there's definitely nothing to work through. We're done. "But I love you," he said, and the audacity of that statement, the absolute gall of Hyen standing there claiming to love me after what I had just witnessed, made me laugh. A harsh, bitter sound that didn't sound like it came from me. "You don't get to say that anymore. You don't get to claim you love me after what you did. After you made me think I was crazy for seeing what was right in front of my face." I pulled out my phone and ordered a rideshare. My hands surprisingly steady. Ryan kept trying to talk to me, kept trying to get me to look at Hyen, but I was done. I was so completely done with all of them. Jessica came running out before my ride arrived, still crying. David and my parents trailing behind her. She tried to remab my arm, but I jerked away. Please don't tell anyone else. Please don't ruin my wedding. The wedding is in a week. We can figure this out. We can fix this. The pure selfishness of that request. That even after everything, she still expected me to protect her, to care about her wedding, made me see red. Your wedding? You're worried about your wedding? After you destroyed my relationship? After you've been screwing my boyfriend behind everyone's back? You made me feel insane, Jessica. You made me doubt my own sanity to protect your lie. My mother tried to intervene, her voice shaking. Everyone needs to calm down. We can discuss this inside like adults. But I was already getting into the car that had pulled up. I looked at my mother through the open window. Ask Jessica about how long this has been going on. Ask Ryan about all the thank you and as he told me I was crazy for noticing. Then ask yourselves why you believe them instead of me. The car pulled away, leaving my family standing in the driveway looking shell-shocked. I had the driver take me to a hotel near the airport. I couldn't go back to the apartment I shared with Ryan. Couldn't risk Hyen showing up to try to talk to me again. I checked in, went up to my room, sat on the bed, and finally let myself fall apart. The tears came in rain-meet, heaving sobs, the kind that leave you gasping for air. I cried for the relationship I had lost, for the trust that had been shattered, for the family bonds that would never be the same. But underneath the relief was a terrible sense of vindication. I had been right. I hadn't been crazy or paranoid or jealous. I had been right all along, and everyone had gaslit me into doubting my own perceptions. My phone started ringing almost immediately. Ryan, Jessica, my mother, my father, even some extended family members who had apparently already heard about the drama. I ignored all of them, finally just turning off my phone entirely when the notifications became overwhelming. I ordered room service, couldn't eat any of it, and lay in bed staring at the ceiling as the sun set outside my window. The next few days passed in a blur. I stayed in that hotel room, ordering delivery and watching mindless television, trying to process everything that had happened. I knew I needed to make decisions about the apartment, about my belongings that were mixed with Ryan's, about whether to attend the wedding that was now only days away. But I couldn't seem to make myself care about any of it. I felt hollowed out, like everything inside me had been scooped away, leaving only a shell. On day 3, I finally turned my phone back on. The voicemails and texts had multiplied exponentially. I scrolled through them with a kind of detached interest, watching the narrative play out in real thank you. And Ryan's messages started with desperate apologies and pleas to talk, then evolved into anger that I wouldn't respond, then circled back to begging. Jessica's messages were all various versions of "I'm sorry" and "please don't ruin my wedding," with increasing desperation as the wedding date approached. My parents' messages were attempts at mediation, urging everyone to calm down and talk things through like mature adults. But there was one voicemail that made me sit up straight. It was from David, left late on the night after I had fled my parents' house. His voice was calm, eerily so. And he didn't say much. Just, "Thank you for telling me the truth. I needed to hear it. I'm sorry for what you're going through." That was it. But something in his tone made me think he wasn't planning to forgive Jessica and move forward with the wedding as planned. I thought about calling Hyen back. But what would I say? I was sorry his fiancée had betrayed Hyen? That I knew how he felt? We were both victims of the same people, connected now by shared trauma rather than family bonds. In the end, I didn't call. I just sat there with the phone in my hand, wondering what David was going to do. The wedding was in 4 days. Invitations had been sent, deposits paid, guests traveling from out of town. Would he go through with it anyway? Would he confront Jessica and demand answers? Or would my family manage to convince Hyen that this was all a misunderstanding, that I was the crazy jealous sister making things up? I made a decision. I wouldn't go to the wedding. I couldn't. The thought of watching Jessica walk down the aisle, of seeing Ryan potentially in attendance as my former +1, of facing my entire family who had spent weeks telling me I was paranoid, was more than I could bear. I sent my mother a brief text. "I won't be attending the wedding. Please don't contact me again until you're ready to acknowledge what really happened." Then, I started looking at apartments in a different part of the city, places where I could start over without the constant reminders of everything I had lost. On what would have been the wedding day, I woke up in my hotel room and made myself go to the gym. Then I got coffee and sat in a park, watching people live their normal lives. I wondered if the wedding was happening at that very moment. If Jessica was standing at the altar in her expensive white dress, promising to love and cherish David while knowing she had been betraying Hyen with my boyfriend. If my parents were smiling for photographs, if Ryan was sitting in a pew somewhere, pretending everything was fine. The not knowing was torture, but not as torturous as being there would have been. My phone rang that evening. I almost didn't answer, but the caller ID showed my cousin Emma, one of the few family members I actually liked. I picked up. "You need to hear what just happened," she said without preamble, her voice excited and hushed like she was hiding somewhere while talking. "Tell me you're sitting down." I sat down on the hotel bed. "What happened?" Emma took a breath, and then the words came tumbling out. "David didn't go through with it. Right there at the altar, in front of everyone, he said he couldn't marry Jessica. He told the whole church that he had learned his fiancée had been having an affair with her sister's boyfriend, that she had betrayed her own family and destroyed her sister's relationship, and that he couldn't spend his life with someone capable of that kind of deception." Emma's voice was practically vibrating. With the drama of it all, Jessica completely broke down. "Your parents were in shock. Some guests started crying. It was absolutely insane. David apologized to your parents for the scene, said they deserved to know the truth about why you haven't been around. And then he just walked out, left Jessica standing there at the altar in front of 200 people." I listened to Emma describe the chaos that had followed. Jessica hysterical, my mother trying to hold things together, my father demanding explanations. Confused guests whispering among themselves trying to piece together what had happened. Ryan had apparently been there as a guest and had tried to slip out quietly during the commotion, but someone had pointed Hyen out as the boyfriend in question and had been subjected to dozens of judgmental stares as he left. The reception had been canceled, the venue standing empty with all its decorations and uneaten food. "How do you feel?" Emma asked after she had finished recounting the story. I thought about that question. How did I feel? Vindicated. Certainly. Relieved that David had seen the truth and saved Hyen's self from a marriage built on lies. Sad for the whole terrible situation and how it had imploded so spectacularly, but also strangely empty. Like this dramatic ending should have brought me more satisfaction than it did. The truth was out now. Everyone knew. But it didn't undo the damage. It didn't erase the weeks of being gaslit or heal the betrayal. It just meant I didn't have to carry the secret anymore. "I don't know how I feel," I told Emma honestly. "Mostly, I just feel tired." We talked for a few more minutes before she had to go, promising to keep me updated on any fallout. After we hung up, I sat in the silence of my hotel room and finally let myself think about the future. A future without Ryan, without Jessica, possibly without my parents if they couldn't acknowledge their role in making me doubt my own reality. It was terrifying and sad and also somehow freeing. I could start over, build a life with people who believed me, who didn't gaslight me, who valued honesty over maintaining comfortable illusions. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "We need to talk. There's been a huge misunderstanding." I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. There had been no misunderstanding. There had been lies, betrayal, and a family's willingness to sacrifice my sanity to avoid uncomfortable truths. Whatever came next, whatever attempt at reconciliation or explanation they wanted to offer, it would have to wait. Right now, I needed to focus on healing myself. And that started with accepting that I had been right all along, trusting my instincts, and never again letting anyone convince me to doubt what I could see with my own eyes. The hotel room wasn't a permanent solution, but it was a start. Tomorrow I would look at apartments. Next week I would pack up my things from Ryan's place. Eventually, maybe in months or years, I would figure out how to forgive. But tonight, I just sat with the truth that I had been vindicated, and let that be enough.